Hey, what's going on, chat? I'm Hazar Big, and I've been maining Master Yi for the past few months before release. And today we're gonna do an introduction to Ramp Yi with some gameplay at the end to demonstrate all the concepts. So Master Yi is a green-orange legend with the ability, while a friendly unit defends alone, it gets +2 might. This makes your 2-drops humongous defenders, defending for up to 5 might. This creates a lot of very advantageous situations, but a problem with Yi's colors right now is that they lack strong mid-game options. Our best options are Kiana Victorious, Carnivorous Snapvine, and Set Brawler, but their power costs really slow down your entry into the late game, and that's why they're a little problematic. Ramp Yi tries to solve that problem by playing ramp cards instead, skipping that power trough, and getting to your big boys as soon as possible. Catalyst of Eons moves you a whole turn ahead in runes, and Find Your Center is Sleeper Broken. It replaces itself, and being action speed is shockingly relevant, which we'll talk about soon. Our first big boy is our chosen champion, Master Yi Honed. Orange Yi is a 6 might unit that costs 7 energy and 1 orange power that enters ready and has ganking. He's a little weak on the attack at 6 might, but at least he enters ready, and 8 might on defense is very obnoxious for opponent to deal with. If he ever holds, he often runs away with the game since he can just gank and double score that turn. Our other big boys are Tasty Feyfolk, Deadbloom Predator, and White Flame Protector. Orangey, Eggplant, and Deadbloom are our large hasty threats, which the deck desperately needs since you might fall behind on tempo a little bit because you spent time ramping. Our overall game plan is mostly the same for most matchups. Turn 1, you play a 2-drop, pass. Opponent plays their own 2-drop and passes back. Turn 2, you move your little guy into a battlefield, and then it's ramp o'clock with Catalyst and Find Your Center. And this is why Find Your Center is super strong. You just pass turn here, and the opponent's options are to fight Yi's 2-drop with 4 or 5 runes up, or go to the other battlefield and get Find Your Center in that showdown, and both of those options are just not very good for them. Another thing you might choose to do on turn 2 is just leave your 2-drop in base and have something you can use to White Flame next turn. After ramping, turn 3 is where we get to see our first big boy. If we held, playing Eggplant to that battlefield and moving our 2-drop back home is a great move. Yi and any of our big boys are also great options. The rest of the game is usually spent just throwing big boys at them until the game ends. Depending on what our opponent is playing, it may be important to sequence things a little differently. The most common way to lose on this deck is if you get your board cleared and you end up having no ways to get onto a battlefield to stop your opponent from scoring. Cards like Falling Star and Singularity are really problematic, especially since they can go ahead and take out 2 of our smaller units, usually leaving us with not much to play with on the board. You'll see later in game 2 where we don't play around Singularity and get hard punished for it. After clearing our small units, the enemy victor uses their efficient yellow removal to deal with our 8-drops, and we just completely get locked out of the game. Efficient removal is our enemy, and it's often just defy or bust with those cards. We have an interesting set of battlefields for this deck. Our game 1 battlefield is Hallowed Tomb. When you hold here, you may return your chosen champion from your trash to your champion zone if it is empty. Most other decks don't make great use of this battlefield, and it also doesn't care too much about whether we go first or not, making it great to flip on game 1. We're able to carelessly just throw our orange Yi at opponents and get it back later again to repeat the process, and it can be super degenerate, which you'll later see in the gameplay. Our go first battlefield is Sigil of the Storm. When you conquer here, you must recycle one of your runes. At first glance, this seems counterintuitive because it de-ramps you, but that's exactly why it's good, especially going first. We're going to use our first mover advantage to get our 2-drop onto the opponent's battlefield, which leaves our opponent with very poor options. They can fight our 4 might 2-drop, backed up by some runes for combat tricks, take the Sigil and de-ramp, or just leave their 2-drop in base and pass the turn. It's actually super gross, and you'll see it in the gameplay later. Our go second battlefield is Obelisk of Power. At the start of each player's first beginning phase, that player channels 1 rune. Most opponents just play a 2-drop and pass, so it's not too bad most of the time. And the idea here is that since Obelisk lets us start with 4 runes, turn 1 going second, we can high roll Catalyst and start dropping 8 drops on turn 2. Our deck list is pretty straightforward, and the deck list will be included in the description. We're playing playsets of all the broken green staples. We're playing 9 2-drops to have a fairly consistent early game. We're playing 3 each of our ramp cards, and we're playing a playset of each of our big boys. Our sideboard is also super simple. 3 Unyielding Spirit for Kaisa and other strong damage-based cards like Singularity and Green Yasuo. 3 Sabotage for when we have to hit non-unit strategies like Aurora. And 2 Rune Prison to mess with attacking decks like the Mirror Match or Red Vi. And that concludes our introduction to Ramp Yi. We've covered the strengths and weaknesses of the deck, general game plan, battlefields, deck list, and sideboard. Hopefully, this is enough to get you started in playing the deck and getting some wins. Leave any questions in the comments and I'll help you out. Coming up is some gameplay like promised. Thanks for making it this far and enjoy. Hey, what's going on, chat? So today we're going to be playing against Victor, and our game 1 battlefield is going to be Hallowed Tomb. The opponent's battlefield is going to be Reaver's Row. Reaver's Row is super good for the opponent because most of the time when we swing in, they're just going to go ahead and be able to save their token or their little unit, while usually we don't really ever retreat, so it's fairly useless for us, but that's just how battlefields go. Hallowed Tomb is also not very useful for the opponent because victors don't often play their chosen champion as part of their core game plan in the same way that we do. So we're gonna go ahead and get our opening hand here. Oh yes, we will be going first this game. We won the dice roll, so lucky for us. But here's our opening hand. It's got a Pit Rookie, Charm, Find Your Setter, and On Guard. And here, this is a pretty good start since we have our 2-drop and our ramp piece. We go ahead and mull the Charm since Charm is not very strong against Victor. I think we should have also mulled this On Guard because that usually doesn't really have relevance until mid to late game. Mid and late game, somewhere in the middle. So yeah, we just don't really need that in this matchup. I think I did it off of muscle memory since most of the time you do want it. But here we are. Unfortunately, we mulled away the Charm and drew another Charm, but that's how things go. And we'll just play our 2-drop, pass the turn. So the opponent here, Victor going second, is actually pretty good for them sometimes because their best, they really want 3 runes on their first turn so that they can play 2-drop and token, which is why they usually play Obelisk when they have decision to go first. But yeah, so opponent plays a Watchful Sentry and a token, pass the turn. So we in our second turn, we actually sort of get a little lucky and we draw a Catalyst. The biggest problem with the Catalyst here is that we don't really have a 8-drop in our hand. The only thing we can play is Master Yi, which in retrospect, I think we should always really just play this Catalyst here. I think it was a mistake, mostly because next turn is pretty good. We would have access to Master Yi and Defy and On Guard. But here we are, just need to clean up our play patterns a little bit. So here, opponent plays a Falling Comet, so that'll get rid of our Pookie, and that is another reason why On Guard is a little less relevant here. Falling Comet just completely poses that Pookie. We can't save it with On Guard, so On Guard's useful way later in the game, like when they play their Watcher or something like that. But at least we'll get our showdown here, assuming opponent goes in. Yeah, opponent goes in with Watchful Sentry and their token, scoring 2 points. We will go ahead and get our Find Your Center window during one of the showdowns. So we're gonna go ahead and we've drawn a we've drawn a Dead Bloom off of the Find Your Center, which is, yeah, slightly unfortunate that we didn't play the Catalyst last turn. It is, that just shows you how important the sequencing here can be. But even if we didn't draw a Dead Bloom, the Catalyst would have been better for sure, because like we were saying, we have Yi and Defy. But we're gonna have to go ahead and live with that and probably get punished. But we do have Hallowed Tomb, so we're not, in a bad spot. We can just go ahead and toss our Yi at something and see what happens. So the opponent here is going to go ahead and do something to this, presumably. So the opponent plays Cull, and they're gonna go ahead and get rid of their unit here. They're actually, so they're gonna go ahead and get rid of their unit and use Victor to play the token back in the base. Opponent plays the Lecturing Yordle, draws a card, and passes the turn back to us. So now we've got 8 runes, and this is one of the problems with Dead Bloom. You can't play it if there's nothing on the board, and that's just how you play around it. So opponent did that properly. We're gonna go ahead and Catalyst instead, so we'll go up to 10 runes here, 12 runes next turn, and we'll be able to protect our Dead Bloom. So opponent is gonna go ahead and move on to both battlefields here, going up to 5 points, and they're gonna go ahead and play a Watchful Sentry to base, and they're also gonna go ahead and play a token to base. They still have 5 runes available here, and they're gonna go ahead and pass the turn. So now we have 12 runes available. We're gonna go ahead and play our Dead Bloom Predator to the Hallowed Tomb, getting rid of their Lecturing Yordle here. And we're gonna go to 3 points for that play. So now we're playing Protect the Dead Bloom on the Hallowed Tomb, and opponent goes to 6 points for holding on a Reaver's Row. But we're in a pretty good spot, between Discipline, On Guard, and 3 Defies. I think it's safe to say that we're gonna be able to have our Dead Bloom live here. So here the opponent plays Thousand-Tailed Watcher. They're trying to figure out where it should go here. But we will be going down to 5 might here, defending for 7. The opponent is playing it in base here. They're also going to go ahead and move back their token from the Reaver's Row and make a token from Victor ability and pass the turn. It looks like the opponent is setting up here to fight us on this Hallowed Tomb. But lucky for us, we were able to keep the Dead Bloom and hold on the Hallowed Tomb. So we get to put back our Yi from the trash into the Chosen Champion zone. And we're going to go ahead and immediately move Yi into the Reaver's Row, scoring our 5th point here. Is going to be really difficult for the opponent to score on us, or to take us off of these positions. We're right here. We're just telling the opponent that we want to charm their Thousand-Tailed Watcher into the Dead Bloom before we pass the turn. But here we've got 4 runes available, and we've got the same thing that we had earlier, 3 Defies, an On Guard, and Discipline, in order to win whatever combat we need to win. So the opponent plays a Thousand-Tailed Watcher here, accelerated, and that'll put our Yi to 3 defending for 5, and our Dead Bloom to 5 defending for 7. It's going to be really difficult for our opponent to take us off of our battlefields, because if our Dead Bloom does lose a fight and our Yi lives, we will be able to just gank over it with combat tricks. So opponent sends in their Thousand-Tailed Watcher and a Watchful Sentry here, and that is at as 8 might to our 7 might. So we're going to go ahead and figure out how we want to sequence here. So we're playing Discipline, and that's going to move up our Dead Bloom to 9 might and draw us a card. The opponent pays 3, pays a back-to-back, and we play our Defy. Opponent will get to draw a card off of the Watchful Sentry, but this is pretty bad for the opponent. They've got no more runes and only 3 tokens in base. So they're not going to be able to win combat this turn. Opponent passes the turn to us here, and we go to 7 points, I believe. Or I think we forgot to get one of our points. Yeah, the opponent gives us that point. So we're going to go ahead and play our 2 Clockwork Keepers. Draw 2 cards. We're going to play Find Your Center. We pay only 1 for that Find Your Center because the opponent is at 6 points. And it needs 5 to... It would be 5 or more to play it for 1. And now we pass the turn to the opponent. We've got 6 runes, 6 runes available for defense here. Opponent plays a 3rd copy of Thousand-Tailed Watcher, and here I'm just showing the opponent. We've got 2 Defies and 2 On Guards. See if they can beat it. And looks like opponent doesn't have a way to beat it. The Yi will, just like last turn, the Yi will defend for 5, and the Dead Bloom will defend for 7. And here we're just going over different lines that we could have taken, but yeah, opponent will be losing from this position here. And we're going to be going over to game 2. So going into game 2, we are in a slightly interesting position. Usually opponents, usually victors will play Obelisk of Power when they have decision to go first, so that they get access to their best play pattern with a 2-drop and a legend and a token from their legend ability. Just something to consider. As victor, we usually want to be going with Obelisk going second, and against token decks, we against a smaller low to the ground decks, we want to be looking at having 2 2-drops as our beginning play pattern. But as you'll see, we need to be careful about that. We'll go into that in a moment. Against Victor, we're looking to sideboard in 3 Sabotage and some number of Unyielding. I settled on 3 later, but I think here we're just doing 2. And we're going to go ahead and cut out some of the charms and some of the catalysts, some of the white flames. Just a little bit of everything. You know, we don't really need white flame too much against Victor because all of their units are small, and white flame gets cold very quickly. Gets cold, he gets hidden bladed, all those problems. Yeah, we sideboard fairly we sideboard pretty not too good here. We'll go ahead and we'll go into it later, but the way I would have sideboarded now after playing this match, I think it should have been something like minus some number of catalysts since we're on Obelisk, and minus some number of charm, something like that, and maybe some number of on guard because those are less relevant in this matchup. So the opponent will be going first here, and opponent has chosen Obelisk of Power as their battlefield, like we were discussing. So because both players have chosen Obelisk and the opponent is going first, they're going to have 4 runes, and we're going to have 5 runes. So we need to take that into account. As you can see here, Catalyst is not as important because we have Obelisk, and we just need more bodies in general against a Victor because they have a lot of removal. But one of the things we need to watch out for is that they can have turn 2 Singularity, and if we play into that, which we do, we will get destroyed, which we do. So, you know, this is how it goes sometimes. But here we drawn, we went away, mulled away our ramp, and we've drawn more 2-drops here. And we'll have 5 mana on our opening turn. So the opponent here goes ahead and plays a 2-drop and a token and passes the turn. Oops, not passes the turn. Opponent is playing a Stupefy just to draw a card, and then passes the turn here. So here we play a Clockwork Keeper and a Pit Rookie, and admittedly, this is pretty autopilot. We just get crushed by Singularity. We should have just played a 2-drop and a Find Your Center. If opponent plays Cold Week there, we'll still be going into 8 runes next turn, and that's totally fine. But, yep. So we go ahead and play a Cookie and the Clockwork Keeper. Opponent will go ahead and double score, going to 2 points. Yeah, opponent's looking at our runes, and they're probably thinking about whether they want to flip for the Unyielding. And they do, which, you know, the Singularity comes down. We lose both of our units, and this is what I was talking about earlier in the introduction. If we have no units like this, we kind of just get in a really bad spot, right? We kind of get forced into playing Yi here, because if we don't, opponent will go to 4 points. But I think we do. Yeah, not playing the Find Your Center last turn is making things just really messy for us here. So what I'm thinking is that I play the Clockwork Keeper here to draw a card. I'm just trying to find more units to put on the board, because what I don't want is to play Yi and to get cold and to just lose immediately. Maybe it's very weird. That could have been fine, but the problem here is that you see this White Flame Protector. We won't be able to use the White Flame Protector if we don't have units on the board, and that's why I'm like trying to put units on the board here. We're gonna go ahead and play a Find Your Center. We're gonna draw a card, hoping to draw some more units, but don't find any units. So now we are at 7 runes, back to 7 runes, going into 9 runes next turn. Opponent will be at 4 points here. Yep, so opponent moves both units back, meaning we can't Dead Bloom. Opponent plays a Leona and plays a token and passes the turn to us, which makes this really annoying for us here. So now we have to figure out how we can deal with the Leona, right? So the opponent will have access to 7 might attacking and Leona. So we go ahead and score a point. What we try and do to stem the bleeding here is we play a White Flame Protector alongside of the Clockwork Keeper, so that way Leona currently can't run it over. But something that Leona can still do is stun the White Flame and take our Clockwork Keeper for free. Not the best position to be in here, for sure. So that's exactly what the opponent does. They go ahead and take our Clockwork Keeper for free and move their Soaring Scout to the other battlefield, going to 5 points. Pretty messy for us. And opponent has Call of the Week, so no Defy means we're in a really bad spot here. And opponent uses their Soaring Scout for the Call, and they get an extra rune, which is also pretty bad. So sort of not the best thing, but since we still had 1 rune up and opponents at 5 points, they got rid of that White Flame Protector that was holding that battlefield, or defending that battlefield. So now they're able to walk the token in and get their 6th point. So because of that showdown beginning, we're able to play Find Your Center. Since the opponent is at 5 points, we will be able to ramp 1, draw 1. We draw an On Guard, but it's not likely to really matter here that we were able to Find Your Center there, unfortunately. Opponent plays a token, and I think just passes the turn here. They're thinking if they want to play Victor. Opponent also plays another Soaring Scout to base and passes the turn back to us. And this is what I meant earlier in the introduction about how you could just get really punished by missequencing your threats. We're forced to kind of just play Dead Bloom here into 3 open runes and just flipping whether they have Hidden Blade or not. So we're going to go ahead and score our second point of the game, and most likely the last time we score. Opponent will be moving their recruit to next to their Obelisk, and they'll be playing a Hidden Blade to get rid of that Dead Bloom. We're gonna go ahead and draw 2 cards, and they will pay deflect. So here the opponent moves in their Soaring Scout to the Obelisk, scoring their 7th point. And if they have a Cull, we pretty much just lose the game, or a Hidden Blade, I guess. But basically, we can't stop any of their efficient removal here. So, yep. So opponent has a Hidden Blade, paying the deflect cost, but doesn't really matter. We're gonna be able to draw 2 cards here, but opponent just walks in their token and we lose the game. So that goes to show you how you need to be careful about how you sequence your threats, how you play around your opponent's removal, and you can get really punished. You can get in a lot of trouble for not playing that situation properly. So we're going to game 3 here, and we are trying to get our more copies of Unyielding into the deck. Removing Hourglasses here, which I don't think is correct actually, but that's how it goes. You know, we're learning the matchup here. So our go first battlefield, we are playing Sigil of the Storm. Opponent is playing Void Gate here. So we've drawn our opening hand. We have an Unyielding Spirit and Discipline and Tasty. We don't really need the Discipline. We can get away without it. This Unyielding is pretty good, and the Tasty is a little slow, but it's not the worst card for us to have here. So we go ahead and just mull that 1 card, the Discipline, and we pass the turn. Or sorry, excuse me. And then we go to our first turn. So we're gonna go ahead and play our Clockwork Keeper and pass here. Opponent makes their first turn. They're just playing a token here, and they're gonna play a Stupefy to draw a card. Presumably they missed the 2-drop. So here we're gonna go ahead and play a Clockwork Keeper, and we're gonna move that into the Void Gate. So now this is a very interesting point here, and this is why Sigil of the Storm is good. So one thing Victor likes to do is to just move into the battlefields, take points, and kind of just play a removal behind that. Here, the opponent is really not in a good position, because if they move into our Sigil of the Storm, they will be deramping, which can really mess with their game plan. So here the opponent goes ahead and plays a Falling Comet, and we go ahead and Unyielding Spirit. That's why we sided the card in, right? So we go ahead and we get to keep our Clockwork Keeper, and since it defends for 5 might too. The opponent, see here, exactly, right? The opponent here is forced to look at the Sigil and just say, oh man, I don't want to go on to that battlefield, and then they actually just pass the turn back to us because they can't afford to deramp here. So we do go and get our second point for holding. We can look at going into that battlefield ourselves, but we also don't want that. So we're gonna just go ahead and pass the turn. We have an Unyielding Spirit in our hand. Low-key hoping that we don't need to use it because we have a Tasty in our hand, but if push comes to shove, we are pushing or whatever, however the saying goes. So we're playing on opponent plays a Singularity to try and take out both units, and this is an interesting position, right? Instead of unyielding, I actually think we should have just let it happen, because we could have played a Tasty, but now it's kind of weird, right? Because now so now we kind of get stuck at 6 runes, and we go ahead and play a Sabotage just to kind of guarantee this Clockwork Keeper. An argument for not letting it through is because of exactly because of this, right? So if we had let the Singularity take out both units, we would have played a Tasty, and it would have just died to Coal, which is not the worst, actually. Now that I look back at it, I think I should have just went with that, because if it dies to Coal, we go straight to 11 runes, and then we have Dead Bloom and we would have Dead Bloom and two Sabotages. But yep, here we are. So we're gonna go ahead and take a Coal, I think. Actually, yeah. So here we take our hidden blade, and the reason why we take the hidden blade is actually because we are hoping to not let the opponent play that when we Dead Bloom, right? So if we Dead Bloom, we will tap out for 8, and the opponent will just get rid of our Dead Bloom immediately. And I don't like that, because, you know, at least if we Dead Bloom and there's no hidden blade, we have units that can save it from Cull. So yeah, we go ahead and get rid of that that hidden blade and pass the turn back to the opponent. We've got 5 runes still up, and the opponent has a Sigil of the Storm there. Oh my goodness. So the opponent plays Singularity. They drew Singularity off top, you know, as they do. And now they're going to go ahead and go for 2 points here, scoring on both battlefields, passing the turn. And this is where it gets a little messy. So something to think about. Yeah, we play this Tasty here. We can go to 11 runes, and if the Tasty dies, we can still Sabotage and play our Dead Bloom. Opponent is thinking about whether they want to keep their units on the battlefields here. Here, the opponent decides to call the weak, getting rid of one of their recruits, but we go ahead and get our 2 runes and draw a card with the Tasty dying. And the opponent is choosing to move back their token. So one of the things that we will have access to is Dead Bloom Predator if the opponent does keep that unit on that battlefield, which the opponent doesn't like. They will be playing a Leona from their hand, passing the turn back to us. So here we're going to go ahead and move our Master Yi to the from the Chosen Zone, and we're going to have it enter ready, go onto the Void Gate. So we'll score a point, and then we're going to go ahead and Sabotage away the Cull. The opponent has drawn a Thousand-Tailed Watcher and a Stupefy, which are very problematic for us here, because this Master Yi will go defend for 5 and immediately just lose to Leona. But the opponent has been taxed by our Sigil and now cannot play Watcher this turn. So that's an interesting thing there. Opponent goes ahead and plays plays that Stupefy that they had. Opponent plays a unit to their base, plays a token to their base using Victor ability. They play a 2-drop Soaring Scout, which they drew off the top for turn, and they go ahead and move their token to the Sigil, further taxing them down to 5 runes now. So next turn they can't accelerate Watcher, but they will be scoring their 5th point, and we will also be scoring our 5th point through the hold. We have access to 11 runes now, and it's really bad for the opponent here. But we're gonna go ahead and play our Tasty Faefolk to the Void Gate here, and use Master Yi's ganking to move to the Sigil of the Storm. We've got 11 runes here and a Tasty, so we don't really care about our runes at this point. And that's the best part about Sigil. At some point, it's really not affecting us anymore because we're playing ramp, right? So here, opponent's going to play Thousand Tail Watcher, putting both of our units to 3 might, defending for 5 might. And they only had 7 runes, so they cannot accelerate the Watcher. This is going to 5 might here, and we are at 6 points. So to be able to win this combat, we go ahead and play an on guard. We move our Master Yi to 7 might. He is stunned, so he doesn't deal damage back to them, but he has too much might for the opponent to clear, and that'll be enough. That'll be the game. Opponent scoops here because they can't, opponent can't take us off of both boards, and we are at 6 points, so we're just gonna go ahead and hold for the win. And that's the game. Those are the games. Yeah, pretty straightforward here. Game 3 was pretty straightforward. We were able to make a great use of Sigil. It taxed the opponent, I think, 3 times. But yeah, that the 3 times that it taxed them, it made a huge difference. Or 2 times, I think. But the times it taxed them made a difference because they weren't able to play Watcher, and that Watcher could have done some real damage. They weren't able to accelerate the Watcher, and yeah, that tax just added up into something meaningful. And we were able to draw the unyieldings, so even better. But yeah, if you got any questions about Ramp Yi, any other matchups you want me to go over, or pretty much anything else you want me to go over, go ahead and leave it in the comments. Let me know. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later. Peace.